All right, 8 o'clock on the dot. Good Monday evening to you from all of us here at 5 News. I'm Chief Meteorologist Skot Covert. What I'd like to do tonight here on 5 Plus exclusively is to dive into the data. Let's get an idea of what you can expect tomorrow, potential impacts, timing, everything you need to know to get ready ahead of this line of what very well could be some nasty storms. And it's not just storms with this system. It's high winds that are associated with non-thunderstorm activity, even a little bit of snow before it's all said and over with. That is a testament to just how strong of a system that it is. So let's dive into that alert. 6 to 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's going to be prime time for some strong thunderstorms to be moving into the area. That's going to slow you down on that morning commute. You might want to budget a few extra minutes to get where you're going. Kids are going to need the rain gear. You're going to need the umbrella. You're also going to need a way to receive some warnings. There's going to be some issued. I'm pretty sure of that. Likely some watches, some warnings. And I know it's dark already and it's windy. In fact, I hear the wind here at the studio whipping around the building. You might want to go ahead and secure some of those loose items tonight. Now, if tomorrow's one of your trash days, there's no telling where your trash can's going to be by the time you end up home tomorrow afternoon into the evening. Maybe you've got some lawn furniture, some outdoor decorations that are kind of loose. You might want to go ahead and pull those in tonight. There's really no question where that ends up going into your Tuesday afternoon into the evening. We'll start with the big picture. Here's what's happening. This is a messy look, but this really tells the tale of what we're looking at. I'll explain why this is important to us. Number one, here's our storm system. It's a big old trough of low pressure. You can see the dip in the jet stream right there. That's a pretty strong dip. That tells us we've got some issues tracking our direction. That, of course, moving off towards the east, moving into our neck of the woods. Meanwhile, there's a strong area of high pressure situated pretty much on top of Florida. And what that's doing for us, it's pushing us some strong southeasterly winds. You've heard the winds, you felt them today. Those winds not only bringing some warmer temperatures, but it's also bringing more moisture into the area. That matters a whole heck of a lot. Dew points right now compared to just 24 hours ago, about 20 degrees higher. That rich moisture is going to be fuel for some of those storms tomorrow. Let's stay on the big picture for a little bit longer. This is really going to tell you what we're looking at. This is tomorrow, 11 o'clock in the morning, area of low pressure, the actual core of this storm system that's going to swing us these fronts and storms situated on top of, let's say, central Kansas. You can see that red L there. Well, that's going to keep tracking off towards the east. As it does, it pushes the first round of rain and storms off towards the east, probably by midday tomorrow. We'll get a round of afternoon and evening rain, and we very well could even pull in some of these snow showers into northwest Arkansas areas, generally along and north of I-40. Before it's all said and done tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. Now, I typically don't show you these lines here. You might be looking at that and saying, Scott, I've never seen those on your maps before. What in the world am I looking at? They look like spaghetti noodles, don't they? It's not spaghetti noodles. I know it is dinner time. These are areas or lines of equal pressure, mean sea level pressure lines. The tighter those are, the higher the winds. This is where we get pressure gradient winds. And the tighter they are, as you can see right here, that tells us we're going to see some very windy conditions. And I'm not talking winds from a thunderstorm, just plain old winds. A lot like what's out there now, just much, much stronger. I'll tell you what you can expect. Here's the latest severe weather outlook for tomorrow. Level 2 risk in place for all of northwest Arkansas, a good majority of the River Valley. Now, no question about it, the further south you go, the odds of running into some severe storms increase. This orange represents a level 3 potential. We do have that in southern LaFleur, a sliver of southern Scott County, extending into Polk County. Mena also included in that level 3 potential. Now, this map may look a little bit different from when you woke up this morning and tuned into 5 News this morning. Here's what happened. Storm Prediction Center put out a map that excluded a good chunk of northwest Arkansas from that level 2 potential. It was down to level 1. At the time, the data supported it, but as we went on throughout the course of the afternoon, more and more data going into our high-resolution models said, hey, there could be a little bit more ingredients still make their way a little bit further towards the north, so they enhance that back into a level 2 potential. That's what we're looking at going into tomorrow. That's overarching, but we can actually peel back the layers even further and dive into specific hazards. What's the tornado risk? What's the hail? What's the wind potential with this storm? Before we dive into the details, here's how to get your bearings. Brown here is going to be your low wind potential. It increases in severity the further on the right side of the scale you get. You'll find, though, that the tornado potential is low in brown for all of northwest Arkansas, parts of the River Valley. We get a little bit further towards the south. Let's say Fort Smith through Sallisaw, Greenwood, Charleston, Boonville, Waldron, LaFleur County, all of LaFleur County. and it's upgraded to that elevated risk. So not necessarily high, but not necessarily low either. It's here where there's going to be a little bit more storm fuel available for these storms to tap into. We'll address the storm fuel and the overall lack of it here in just a minute. Key takeaway is even here in Brown, northwest Arkansas, parts of the River Valley, tornado risk, yeah, it's low, but notice this, it's not zero. It is something that we're going to have to watch very closely out there tomorrow. There's so much wind energy in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Not only is there a whole bunch of wind, there's a whole bunch of wind shear, which means it's either turning with height, things are spinning, and it's also increasing in speed with height. That's a recipe for some severe storms. What's lacking is storm fuel, or CAPE, convective available potential energy. That's the 50-cent way of saying it. Storm fuel between you and I. That's what we'll call it tonight here on 5+. There's not very much of it. If there were more, we would be looking at a big bullet. Thankfully, the lack of it is going to help us dodge what could have been a worse situation. Not to say it may not get bad out there tomorrow, but it could be certainly much worse. Hail potential looks like this. Often our hail potential is driven by the strength of an updraft. Strength of an updraft driven by storm fuel. Without much of it, you're not going to have a whole bunch of hail. We could have a little bit. There's no question about that. I wouldn't rule it out, but it's also in the low category. Really, more than anything else tomorrow, we're looking at damaging winds, 60 to 70 mile per hour straight line winds coming out of a nasty line of thunderstorms in the morning. That's the severe convective aspect of all this. But then we have some non-thunderstorm winds that are going to be a problem for us as well. More on that in a moment. Let's talk about timing. When do you need to get ready? Well, the Storm Prediction Center just told us a few minutes ago before we fired up this live stream here that they actually are going to be issuing a tornado watch for parts of western and central Oklahoma probably in the next few hours. They're telling us that's coming. That'll run into the overnight, and as that line of storms progresses eastward here into East Oklahoma, we would expect 4 to 7 o'clock to be the window in which we really need to be on guard. That Oklahoma-Arkansas state line, let's say 6 to 10 a.m. is going to be prime time for storms in this part of the area. The further east you get here in green, 9 to 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's going to be when the brunt of those storms are moving through. Here's Futurecast, and I'm going to back that up. That's moving way too quick for my liking. Here's the thing about Futurecast. I show it on TV, but we don't necessarily get a lot of time to spend with it. So that's what we'll do now, right here. Let's dive into the details. It's just a model. It's a computer. It's not smart. It's not smarter than a human, but it gives us a pretty good idea of general timing. So I want to help you plan your commute tomorrow morning, but you got to know this. You better check in with us first thing in the morning right here on 5+ and on air, just in case the timing of this changes. That's a real possibility. But the latest data suggests by 5:30 tomorrow morning, yeah, maybe a couple of spotty showers out there, but the worst of it extending from Tulsa back towards Oklahoma City. It's working its way our direction slowly but surely. It really would track that into our neck of the woods. Let's say we go a little bit further. That's 7 o'clock right there. Nasty line of storms from Tulsa up through down towards McAllister, where you notice the pinks and the purples. That's probably some really heavy rain, if not embedded with a little bit of hail. It's been somewhat warm out there, so the question is how much of that hail can make it to the surface without melting. It'll be cool enough that it's certainly a real possibility tomorrow. But it's really going to be wind that we're going to have to watch out of some of these storms. And then we'll watch these little eddies. This is Futurecast. Again, it's just an idea, it's just a model, but where we have these little kinks in the line, you can see some quick spin-up tornadoes. More often than not, tornadoes around these parts are resulting from a squall line like this. You call them QLCSs, or quasi-convective linear systems. Another 50-cent word. Got to stop doing that. We're up to $1. I'll put it in the swear jar. You'll notice that line, though, moving a little bit closer. And what's what I'm going to be focusing on tomorrow very closely is where those hooks and those little eddies develop. That's where you can get a little bit of spin. Let's take this a little bit further. We're kind of getting to our neck of the woods now. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning from Sequoia, LaFleur, Delaware, and Adair County. It looks like we've got that leading edge moving into the area. A little bit further puts a lot of that into pretty much all of the Channel 5 viewing area by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Things do get a little bit messy. You're not looking as defined of a line as what we were. That's generally some good news. Where you have that really crisp, very defined line, that's where you're going to have the most intense weather. It's starting to weaken a little bit, still bringing a lot of rain. I mean, look at all that red and orange, and even still looking at some purples on reflectivity. That would be the rain mode. That tells us we could see some flash flooding. That's another concern we've got with tomorrow as well. Here's 10 o'clock in the morning, still looking at widespread rain, but we're starting to taper off in Oklahoma. Rain slowly ending from west to east, at least temporarily, let's say by 11:30 noon tomorrow. And then we'll have to watch a second round of some showers, maybe some thunderstorms embedded by 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. These also could be somewhat strong. Now, not near as strong as the early morning, but it is a real possibility. And we get a third wave of moisture on the backside of this system. This is around midnight. And what is that? Oh, we just thought we were done with winter weather after the 70s we've enjoyed over the last several days. Nada, says Mother Nature. We're going to be looking at some of this transitioning over into a little bit of snow, a little bit of sleet through early Wednesday morning. I'll show you accumulations in a minute. I'll tell you, it looks to be low, if any at all, but very well could see a light dusting, especially on those grassy surfaces. This is 10 o'clock Wednesday morning. You'd think we're done at that point, but now we got to talk about some other issues. Here's storm fuel. There's just not much of it. You see out in Oklahoma, we do get a lot of it, but then we just see it vanish for our neck of the woods. If that changes, and it could, then we've got a different situation on our hands. I think right now, though, we're looking at a lot of wind shear, very little storm fuel, which is helpful to us in the sense that if we had even a little bit more storm fuel in the air, these thunderstorms could be capable of so much more. It's good news for us. Let's take a look at the winds. This is going to be 9:30 tomorrow morning. 30, 40, 50 mile per hour winds. A lot of this you're seeing, if you remember on Futurecast, this is around the time that line of storms is moving into the area. So much of this is what we would call convective winds. It's thunderstorms blowing those straight line winds out from under those storms. We get a bit of a lull by, let's say, lunchtime, but you notice shortly after lunch, going into mid-afternoon tomorrow, you're seeing a lot more reds, some purples. These numbers are starting to increase. This isn't sustained wind, so this isn't constant wind. This is those occasional bursts, those gusts of wind that come and go, right? 30 mile per hour, that's pretty strong in of itself, but it gets so much stronger going into tomorrow night. This is 1:30, so a little after midnight, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds out of the northwest, that's going to be common. This could result in some power outages. Now, this isn't necessarily thunderstorm winds. It's not, right? You might have a little bit of snow flying northwest Arkansas, but this is just pressure gradient force winds. This is just that area of low pressure strengthening just off to our north, pushing us some winds out there. So you not only have the morning threat of severe weather, you also have an evening wind aspect to this event that very well could in of itself result in some isolated power outages. I don't necessarily think it will be widespread, but it's a real possibility that we're going to have to watch out there. I pushed play. I fast forwarded us through 7 o'clock Wednesday morning. These numbers didn't change. This wind potential continues probably through the middle part of Wednesday before we see things start to die down. This map looks really boring. Well, it's actually not. It's actually very interesting. Wind advisory in effect for all of the Channel 5 viewing area, the entire state of Arkansas, a good chunk of this entire state of Oklahoma. Everyone is getting that wind advisory. It'll expire. As of right now, it's set to expire noon on Wednesday. We'll have to see when those winds calm down. Hopefully sooner. Wouldn't that be some good news? Okay, let's take a look at snow projections. This is going to be one specific model, and it shows, generally speaking, areas along and north of Interstate 40 could pick up a very light amount. Now, I'll tell you, these numbers you're seeing probably not taking into account the melting that is likely to occur. So don't get your hopes up for an inch of snow. I think that's probably going to be rare, if any at all. Maybe some of those higher elevations, those mountaintops, those ridges, that it will be a little bit cooler a little bit earlier, but it's certainly possible a light dusting of snow could be on the ground when you wake up Wednesday morning. Just keep in mind it's going to be cold, it's going to be windy out there as well. In terms of the flood risk, it's there. I know we haven't talked a lot about it, but it is a real possibility for us. The tornado and the wind threat kind of taking precedent, but I don't want to sleep on the potential of some flash flooding. This is a level 2 risk. It's yellow, but it's for the entire River Valley, all of northwest Arkansas, a good chunk of eastern Oklahoma out there as well. 1 to 2 inches of rain is going to be common. I put 4 different computer models here just to get an idea of ranges, and really there's not much of a range at all. They're all kind of honing in on that idea of 1 to 2 inches will be most common just about everywhere. 1 to 2 inches isn't a whole lot. The problem is where we're going to find those heavier thunderstorms that maybe start to slow down and dump a lot of water in a short amount of time. You're talking 1 to 2 inches in an hour, 2 hours. Yeah, runoff's going to be pretty problematic for us, and that's where you start to get those flash flood concerns. Of course, it's often going to be those low-lying areas most prone to flash flooding. You know where they're at, right? That's probably what we're going to be looking at out there tomorrow with this. As it pushes off towards the east, hopefully we can see things improve. One final thing, as if we don't have enough to track. This area of low pressure, this storm system, it's pretty strong. The lower the low pressure is, the more common aches and pains are. This is actual medical science. I don't pretend to be a doctor, just an old weatherman, but I will tell you the pressure is going to be so low tomorrow, really starting tonight as that low gets closer. You're seeing the barometric pressure here. That's the yellow line here. It gets really low by tomorrow night. Slowly but surely, I think by the middle part of Wednesday, you're maybe not feeling as bad. I put something out on Facebook earlier. Hey, are you feeling it? Are you feeling the storm system coming? There's real science behind it, folks. I know it sounds kind of hokey, but it's real. It's very, very real. It's very well documented in medical journals as well. The good news is I think by Wednesday we can put the ibuprofen and the Bengay down. I think we're going to need it until then. No question about it with the pressure as low as it is. All right, current time is about 8:15. If you're just now joining us on 5 Plus, I get to do things and say things here on 5 Plus that don't end up getting me FCC fines. It's a great thing, right? So let's back up and let's see if I can't put my foot in my mouth a couple more times. I will go over the timing, the impacts expected here with this storm system. Overall, we're going to begin here with the big picture. I think it's a really impressive sight to see. This is an area of low pressure that's going to swing us initially tomorrow morning. A line of strong to severe thunderstorms, damaging winds going to be the main concern, followed by hail. There is a low-end tornado potential. As that low pulls away, we'll see an afternoon round of rain. You can kind of see it moving through there. And then notice all this snow. It's all part of the exact same storm system. As those winds are wrapping around this area of low pressure, it's going to pull some of that moisture further south. It's meeting up with some of those cold temperatures that will be arriving. And we could see a little bit of snow early in the morning. It's a level 2 potential for a large majority of the area. Level 3 in orange, southern LaFleur, a sliver of Scott County there as well. We'll get another update after midnight tonight from the Storm Prediction Center. We'll be able to pass along those updates. In case this map changes, I wouldn't expect any significant changes. At least I'm not seeing anything in the data that would support that as of right now. These things do, though, change on a dime. We'll have to watch the data pretty closely. Southern Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma, Mena, Polk County included in that. I know we have some viewers there. Good evening to you folks. It looks like it could be a bit of a scarier situation there. Key takeaway is just be prepared. Here are the hazards that we're looking at locally. Our tornado potential's low, but it's not zero. And that's the concern is with as much wind energy as we've got coming our way, it's not going to take much to get something to spin up along that line. Thankfully, there's not as much storm fuel as there could be. If that were a different situation, we might be looking at a different outcome come tomorrow. Thankfully, though, it's relatively low. That'll help mitigate some issues out there. Probably doesn't prevent everything from spinning up. A little bit of hail can't be ruled out, but I'll tell you, the overall storm fuel being as low as it is also going to mitigate some of that hail size. It's going to be a wind event with this one, folks. It is going to be just absolutely windy, not only with the actual convective line itself, the storms moving through, but it's those non-thunderstorm winds that are likely to cause us some issues. Here's a general look at the timing. 4 to 7 a.m. here in dark blue. The light blue is going to be 6 to 10, 9 to 11 off towards the east. Here's Futurecast. Boy, it's going to get messy out there. This is 9 o'clock in the morning, so if you're headed to the office, maybe you're dropping the kids off at school at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, this is what you can expect. It's going to cause us some delays out there on those roadways. Inevitably, there's going to be some accidents. You know, we can't even drive when it's dry outside, much less add 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds, heavy rain, a little bit of hail. It's going to be a mess out there, I'm afraid. That tracks off towards the east. That's around 1. We'll get a second batch of showers and thunderstorms to move into the area. This is 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. It's not as impressive, but we'll have to watch it closely. And then here comes a burst of some sleet and some snow on the backside of that system. Very well could pick up about an inch or at max in northwest Arkansas. I don't think many folks are going to get that, but it is a real possibility. You're seeing some storm fuel colors generally on the lighter end, which tells us there's just not going to be much available to it. This is where we'll wrap things up. This is really the big story. I know we haven't talked a lot about it, and it's not near sexy as spin-up tornadoes and hail and storm fuel, but non-thunderstorm winds are going to be a concern for us. Out of the south initially, 20 to 30 miles per hour. This takes us through 3 o'clock. That's breezy. It's breezier than it was out there today, but this arrives tomorrow night. This is 1:30 in the morning, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds overnight. That lasts pretty much all night long. This is 7 a.m. I push play. Nothing changed, right? Those winds are going to be breezy all night long while you're trying to sleep out there. Wind chimes are going to be a chiming, and you're going to hear that wind a-whipping outside the window. Hopefully we don't lose power, but I'll tell you, with numbers like that, it's not going to take much to see a little bit of power outages out there. Okay, it's 9:18. As far as I know, I've still got a job. I've not said anything too crazy on this stream. Check back tomorrow morning. Things could be different. I'm just kidding. Try to be professional as much as I can. My hillbilly just shows sometimes, and that's all it is. We'll have 10 o'clock newscast right here on 5 Plus. And of course over on 5 News as well. We'll keep providing you some updates there. We'll get a little bit more model data between now and then. That's some good news. So we'll have the latest and the greatest for you then. And then 5 News this morning starts at 4:30 tomorrow morning. Meteorologist Stephen Elmore kicks off our coverage then. I'll join him after a quick nap, probably early tomorrow morning. Forecaster Joshua Weisel is going to be in the 5 News Storm Chaser. We'll have that out on the roads as well, seeing what we can see on the ground. So full team coverage from 5 News is what you can expect right here, not only tonight, but all day tomorrow as well. That'll do it for us. We'll see you guys here coming up at the 10 o'clock newscast.